Hello again, everyone. Welcome back. We finished the first page and started on page 2 of the investigative notes that I took on the alternate reality game of Welcome Home. And I would like to continue on, starting with, again, question 1. So this is where we left off last time. What else stands out? Okay, let's talk about those guest book responses. There are a ton of guest book responses, and some of them are not all right there in front of you. Some of them are in the artwork, so if you click on the artwork, it will take you somewhere and give you a hidden message. The artwork itself is a URL that is a hidden message. In the what looks to be blank sections, not all those squares are blank. There's actually hidden guest book sign-ins, and what I found most interesting was the difference in the spelling between the two Wallies. One has spaces between each letter and the other one does not, and it almost looks like someone is arguing with themselves, or at least that's the feel that I got. But to say that they are actually arguing with themselves, I don't know. That duality in personality just looks so Jekyll and Hyde, and that is a classic symptom of certain kinds of mental disturbances. And I thought, wow, the creators of this game have gone to a lot of effort to fit that in and see to it that the character is fleshed out that well. So kudos, guys. That's a juicy little detail there, if I can dare put it that way. Let's talk about the training video. There are so many questions surrounding so many things already, but the training video was the first of my own investigative stuffs that I did with regards to this game, and I enjoyed every second of it. It was so amazing. The number of subliminal messages and the number of screenshots that I took. I will recommend that if you have a program where you can fit a video someone has already made into a program that will break it down by tenths of a second, to go ahead and put it in that program and see what kind of things you can find, because there's a lot of fun stuff in there, very interesting to break down. What I found most interesting was, here we are, home. Home happened again. Earlier in the previous video, you heard me talking about how home was the focus. There it is. There's your subliminal message. It's in the top corner if you look, and then it becomes an acronym, which I can't remember the acronym. I'm not too concerned about that. There's a code here. When you start looking in the video, you will see these letters getting displaced. And what I noticed was the word run. That just stood out to me because these three were closest together in one hit. I also noticed Charun and this weird sort of hourglass looking symbol. At first it didn't dawn on me what Charun was, but I had heard of it before. It just totally slipped under radar, except that, hey, there's a gut feeling there. I should write that down. Another gut feeling was a map and a park. The map was really questionable, and it was really weird, and it didn't make a lot of sense to me. And a park? Wait, nobody's mentioned a park before. And the Welcome Home Restoration Program members, or whatever they want to call themselves in this game, didn't mention a park either, to the best of my knowledge. So this is new. I mean, what kind of park are we talking about here? Are we talking about a dog park? Are we talking about a theme park? Are we talking about an amusement park? Maybe just a park that, you know, you would find by any happy little village. You know, I don't know. That's kind of got my curiosity stirred. And the size of the park in relation to the map, it was just all too weird for me. I noticed that in the subliminal messages was the intent to block pathways and make sure all exits are closed off so that there are no anomalous incidents. I'm sorry, no more anomalous incidents? What are those? And in the video, you'll notice that there's color of exits. I'll explain that a bit more later. Some of this is a little bit out of order, so I apologize for that. You will also find a place called Liminal Mart, which I thought was a bit kind of odd, but at the same time, it rings tones true to what the rest of the story turned out to be, so I won't give that away quite yet. I'll touch back on this and some of the other stuffs later. Just remember, Liminal Mart. And on the main vein roadway, you'll see the number 777. Interesting enough, we've already seen a hint, an Easter egg at Religion. Here's another Easter egg at Religion. Just saying. 7 is oftentimes a really important number in those sorts of circles. I did notice when the videographer went into one of the buildings on the set. And look, if you can find the training video, just watch it. A lot of this information will make a lot more sense if you watch the video. I'm just trying to keep this as simple as possible and as straightforward just video style as possible. So you won't see any photos, you won't see any video snippets or anything like that. No flashing lights, no wild sounds or anything like that, except for the critters that you hear. So I hope you enjoy the format that I've selected for this. Anyway, when you go into the video and you start watching it, you will see that there is some wrecked furniture, and for all the world to me, it looks like a couch with a tunnel in it. Why is there a tunnel in the underside of a couch? Later on, you'll see words on a crate. I can't quite make out the words on the crate. Probably the level of shading on my video screen or something, but whatever the case may be, I couldn't pause the video at the right moment to capture that well enough to know what it was. But there's also a gramophone. Now, I wrote this backwards, my apologies for that. The gramophone is actually a very interesting little feature. It is security disguised as entertainment in this gaming format. And what happens is, when someone passes by this gramophone, it's triggered to begin playing music. That lets anyone within earshot of the gramophone know that someone has passed beyond a certain point in that liminal space. So, yeah. Go figure. It's very clever, actually. The liminal space itself is quite a labyrinth, and you can see that very clearly in just this video alone. We find out later more about that. On the walls, past the security, it is clear to see written on the walls various things. Now, one of the first things I noticed was some words on a door. They're in diagonal. I think they're written in cursive. I couldn't make it out. If you guys can make it out, good for you. But what I did see very clearly was C Block and Charon. There's Charon again from earlier on in that same video. Underneath one of the doors is emitting welding flashes, but it's orange. So I'm like, oh, okay, well that's too white to be welding, but it could be some kind of metal work for sure. And then it takes us to a series of exits. Now, this is only after the videographer has kind of ducked and dodged a little bit and hidden in a dark passageway. It's like they're afraid they're going to get caught. So then we see exits. Now, I mentioned earlier there's the color of the exits. That's mentioned in the video as a separate section. And there are green, blue, red, and black and white. And if you look at the video, in another area of it, you'll see just a list of colored words, 4 different colors, And there's different messages that belong with each one. It's very interesting what those messages are. I do not have those messages written down in front of me, so I didn't really worry about what those messages were, as I was more interested in getting to the bottom of things, and I knew that those exits were probably all just a farce anyway. There were probably no actual exits except the way that the videographer had already come, so I didn't bother with that. Subliminal message. Okay. I was a little bit surprised to see this, but I spoke to one of my fellow gamers and I said, hey, you know, what do you make of this phrase that's on the top of the lintel? And they said, oh yeah, well that smacks of a cult. And I'm like, seriously? And they're like, yeah, think about it. And we started discussing the ins and outs of it, and sure enough, they're right. That is a regular pattern. And what it boils down to is taking away the desires of the flesh and eliminating as many of the desires of the flesh as possible so that they can become a more spiritually complete individual. It's just a theme. And so at this point, I've decided that this is officially a cult that has been written into this game. And so at this point, it changes the color of a lot of the stuff that I've found out. The liminal space, the liminal mart, you know, I did say I'd touch back on that. Liminal mart is just another part of that equation. They like to cycle through their own money, all kinds of horrible things. It's just very sus. It's like, oh my goodness, what is this? So I had to have a bit of a breather because I was like, wow, this has gotten so deep so quick. Some food for thought. Okay, so these are just odd little bits and bobs that kind of ran through my head, and I was like, well, I don't really have any other way to say these, so here we go. Liminal land? Maybe it was subliminal land. The investigative gamer that I was talking to about this previous concept also mentioned this in that same conversation. And I thought, you know what? They might have something there. So I decided to go ahead and write that concept down. And I'll talk more about that later. The set for the show, when you look at the video, it really does look like it's a set for the show. But it's not right. It's very moody. It's very blue. It's not very colorful. It's not bright and happy like I thought it would be, which was a little bit sus. And the visitors obviously get trapped in this place. I mean, as I say, the exits aren't meant to actually be real exits. They're just a trick. Now, I'm wondering about the videographer at this point. I honestly don't think they got away scot-free. It doesn't look like it. When you watch to the end of their recorded session, you think, wait a minute, they got captured. But the end of the video itself doesn't really equate exactly the same fate as the videographer, because otherwise how would the video have survived in the first place? So whoever this was really clever, or they had access to a training video and they were just really, really rushed. So we're talking about someone who was a manager or team leader, or I mean, it could have been just another regular employee who happened to have access to a training video, but whoever it was, I believe, belonged there for work purposes. And knowing more about that videographer is going to help us get down to the bottom of a lot more stuff that's going on. Now, whoever this was, as I say, may have not had time to grab a blank tape, which is why we see it in the middle of a training video, because they were just really rushed for time. Now, you gotta ask yourself, why were they rushed if they were working there? Which leads to a whole nother slew of spawn questions. And we talk about liminal land as well. Liminal land is mentioned throughout the video. And I'm thinking, okay, how does liminal land, welcome home, and the park all linked? And home? Wait, why is home an acronym all of a sudden? Home then is part of the Welcome Home program. Oh dear. There's a bit of a concern, isn't it? Now, the focus of the show is home as a concept, home as a character, then, of course, becomes suspicious because there's obviously some brainwashing going on. Charon. I decided to look up Charon because I couldn't remember what I knew it from. And turns out it's actually the boatman for the River of Styx. And I don't know, I just got this gut feeling about the hourglass as well. Charon just fits the whole religio cult thing that's going on here. And the fact that things are going downhill badly and looking really creepy and not going well just, you know, lines up with the fact that we're using a company name that is equivocal to leading someone down a very dark path that leads to nothing but death and destruction. It's just really juicy how the creators have written this. The hourglass, I don't know, somehow I think that this is a symbol of time, and I wanted to kind of keep that in mind. Before, when I was talking about how to play the game, I mentioned that some things you may find are on a time limit, and you need to get as much information down as quickly as possible, because you may not be able to get that information later on. So this kind of supported that, just for me anyway. As I say, it's religious for certain. There are subliminal messages throughout the training video, and one of the ones that I found the most comical was when I worked so desperately hard to get one particular blue screen, and all it said was enough. It was almost like the authors, the writers and developers of this game were going, okay, right, we know that you're aware there's subliminal messages here, now cut it out, go on, that's enough. So I had a laugh. I thought it was great. Just about fell out of my chair, actually, over that particular word. It was just so nice. There was a need to mention the word right, and I made big note of that. My original notes look so scratchy, but that was huge when I looked back at everything. And the reason for that was because they said that if you wanted more training, you needed to mention it to your manager. And what I found interesting was, again, the number 7 has been mentioned. So we've had course 6 presented to us, because if you look at the numbers, the video that I'm talking about right now was video 6. So where's 1 through 5? I'm just kind of wondering what the other information looks like. You know, is how did they kind of decide to lead these people this far down this dark and horrible path? It's 1 through 5 would be very eye-opening. But I doubt we'll get to see those. I doubt the creators have gone to that much effort writing that. They've gone to so much effort otherwise, though. I don't know. We'll see. So what was that ending? That ending was so strange. I looked at that and I thought, okay, well, if it was a case of, say, a manager who was in too much of a hurry and had to grab a training video, and they used whatever quick grab camera they could in order to record what they were about to witness or hunt down, they would have probably ran the video forward a little bit to make sure there's space to record. And then once they knew they were going to be captured, they probably set the video to continue recording just a little bit after they were gone, and then it could shut off, and then there would be a little bit of the training video left afterwards. So whoever picked it up would just rewind a smidge or rewind it from the start, and then whether they looked at close to the end or close to the beginning, they would only ever see just a training video and nothing else. So I thought that was really clever, but I also thought, again, that it was indicative of something else going on. I don't think the videographer was there with the camera and the video the whole time. I could be wrong there. But what I did notice was that it looked for all the world like there was a refrigerator with like stuff sitting on top of it. So it looked like they were in a cafeteria. What you will find when you're looking at this entire storyline that's been written for us here to play around with is that there are reflections of other criminal activities that have already been well documented and researched before, and you will see some themes showing up and probably reminding you of stuff that has happened in real time. And I think it's very clever that the authors and developers have gone to the effort of collecting that kind of information and putting it together as a cohesive story that we can research and kind of dive into a little bit. So if something reminds you of a previous criminal activity that's already been fully investigated, hey, you know, follow some of the same logic that maybe was used to crack that and see where it leads you in this story. It would be very interesting to know. See what the time is. Oh, we haven't got much time. Alright, so in my next video, I will discuss the 4th page of information. Oh my goodness, you guys, there was so much. And we will cover the next thing that stands out, which is the videographer. Thank you so much. I will continue with these videos, and see you next time.